uZulu kumele wethembe ukuthi uSkidi unokuchule kwezimpi.
Uma sibhekana naye siyogoba uphondo.
Sekufika isikhathi ke ayoshabalala bonke abantu bakwaNdwandwe.
Sikanisa ngomntwana untombazana abe ngomunye wondlunkulu bakho.
Hello everyone, welcome back to ASR, African Stories Realized. This is our weekly review of Shaka iLembe Season 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Episode 4 picks up in Kwanobamba following Shaka's coronation, where word of the Ndwandwe ambush on the Mteto traders arrived. Dingiswayo immediately took it as an act of war and instructed Shaka to build up and consolidate his Zulu army in preparation for war against the Ndwandwe. Ngomane was also tasked with training Shaka's new servant, Mbopa, who was informed to never leave Shaka's side and make sure he disposes of Shaka's waste so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Shaka's men also warned Mbopa against betraying their king. In Ndwandwe, Zwide reprimanded Soshangane for challenging his son's authority in front of the Ndwandwe men, forcing him to apologize to Nomahlanjana. However, Zwide also disciplined his son for going against his orders and putting them at the brink of a war they're not ready for, with Mzilikazi's father and uncle also arriving to voice their concerns on behalf of the Khumalo tribe. Nomahlanjana then went on a warpath as he bullied the other men before finding his wife, Hlejiwe, and his brother, Skwinyana, enjoying each other's company by the river. He confronted the couple, beating them both up before dragging his wife away from the wounded Skwinyana. Over the next few months, Shaka and Ngomane strengthened the Zulu army at a neck-breaking pace, with Nandi, who the Zulu kingdom had embraced as their queen mother, introducing a female regiment to support the Zulu warriors. However, Shaka's judgment was questioned by his royal council when he forbade the men in the Zulu army from taking wives, with Shaka revealing that he doesn't plan to get married or have any children. Shaka then summoned Nongila, Nkabai's spy and love interest. Shaka instructed him to go and investigate the British forces which have been encroaching on the Xhosa and Mapondo territories. Shaka also instructed Nongilo to take his brother Ndwandwe with him and teach him how to be a spy. Back in Ndwandwe, Zwide's goblin brother, who is also his oracle, warned him that Shaka's army had grown too strong and would crush them if they went to war now. Zwide decided to send one of his men, Melusi, who is married to Dingiswayo's sister, to Mteto in an effort to open up peace talks. Despite concerns over allowing Queen Ntombazi back in Mteto, Dingiswayo decided to hear them out. Zwide's mother and daughter, Ntombazana, arrived in Mteto with a proposal for the king. Then Ndwandwe offered Ntombazana's hand in marriage in exchange for peace between the tribes. Dingiswayo considered the proposal, but only to buy time until him and Shaka were ready to crush the Ndwandwe. However, Zwide's mother and daughter had already devised their own plan for how they would bewitch him and lead him to his death. Dingiswayo suggested that Ntombazana marries his son, Somveli, but she insisted that she was only interested in the Mteto king, leaving Dingiswayo with a decision to make. Back in Kwanobamba, Nandi decided to test Shaka's commitment to not getting married by sending the young Zulu maiden, Liana, to his chambers. The couple shared a drink together and talked into the night as their connection grew. The following day, Shaka questioned why his mother sent Liana to visit him and insisted that he still didn't want a wife and kids, despite revealing plans to build a bigger palace. Shaka then continued training his reinforced army in preparation for war. However, all battle plans were halted when a messenger from Mteto arrived with word from Dingiswayo to stand down. Nandi was not happy and insisted that it was disrespectful of Dingiswayo to pull out of a war he got them into at the 11th hour. A disappointed Shaka agreed that Dingiswayo had lost his appetite for war, and the episode ends with Nandi insisting that Dingiswayo's time is coming to an end and Shaka will have to take over. I think today was the calmest episode of the season so far, but there's still a lot that happened. Zwide's plan is coming together, and unfortunately, it'll be the beginning of Dingiswayo's downfall. The least he could have done was consult Shaka before agreeing to marry the Ndwandwe princess, especially because the Zulu and Ndwandwe have bad blood. The last time Queen Ntombazi was allowed in the Mteto capital, all hell broke loose, with Dingiswayo's brothers getting killed and him being forced into exile. So I don't understand how he just walked into this trap. Zwide is doing what we call divide and conquer. because while the ending makes it seem like Shaka would raise arms against them Tetra, I think it's rather giving motivation to why Shaka won't support Dingiswayo in the future, a decision which will ultimately lead to them Tetra King's death. I'm glad they gave Shaka a romance storyline because there's a lot of speculation about why he never married or if he ever had children. As far as I know, the reason he never married was to avoid having legitimate heirs who would be potential threats to his rule and each other fighting over the throne. Apparently, Shaka even had women who got pregnant by him executed. So I don't know what that means for Liana, but I wouldn't get too attached to her. However, the two do have great chemistry, and they've been softly building it up since the first episode. When it comes to marriage and children, Dingiswayo and Shaka are complete opposites, and I think this episode did well to show us that Dingiswayo's son, Somveli, and his marriage to the Ndwandwe princess are his weaknesses. Nkabai even suggested that Shaka married to build alliances, but he quickly rejected it, whereas Dingiswayo was quick to accept marriage with their common enemy. If I am interpreting this correctly, then this was some high-level writing. I like that Zwide's sons have their own little storyline going, and I was impressed with Nomatlanjana's performance today. Despite the limited screen time, the love triangle with his wife and brother has really been entertaining. Then there's Soshangan, who I think is Zwide's adopted son. Back in season 1, Zwide and his men killed his father while cattle raiding, after which Zwide took him under his wing. I'm still not sure how Mzilikazi is Zwide's nephew in the show. But today, his father and uncle from the Kumalo kingdom made an appearance, so I'm not quite sure how the show is executing the character. Mzilikazi is a very big deal to the history of Southern Africa, and from the casting alone, I think the Shaka iLembe team has big plans for the character. For those who want to know, Mzilikazi was the founder of the Ndebele kingdom, which is now known as a region called Matebele land in Zimbabwe. So you can imagine how far him and his people had to travel. He was just as revered as Shaka in combat, and right now the show is still following his humble beginnings. Zwide is actually Mzilikazi's grandfather, but they fell out after Zwide killed Mzilikazi's father, Mashoban. After his father's death, Mzilikazi became Shaka's ally and served as a military general in the Zulu army, one of Shaka's most trusted. However, following a dispute with Shaka, Mzilikazi along with his followers broke away from the Zulu kingdom and migrated north during the Mfekan, defeating any tribe in their path, ultimately settling in the southwest of what is now Zimbabwe, where he established the Ndebele kingdom, which was made up of diverse groups, including the ones he conquered. The Ndebele kingdom had a strong military structure that was heavily influenced by the Zulu model. Mzilikazi's name translates to a river of blood, which seems to have been attained for his conquest while traveling north. Much like Dingiswayo got his name along the way, I think it's the same with Mzilikazi, because it's always been linked to his migration up north, but that's just my own personal theory. I just wanted to give a little context into who Mzilikazi was, and I trust the show to do right by him. One of my favorite quotes is adaptations don't copy and paste, and this Shaka Zulu adaptation has done well with the dramatization of the history while trying to stay true to the source material. So big up to the cast and production. We're almost halfway through the season, and Shaka iLembe season 2 hasn't skipped a beat. I really appreciate all the love I've been getting for the reviews. It's a lot of work putting them together, so it's good to know that most of you enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is ASR for the love of African filmmaking and storytelling.